So buckle up because today we're heading to Easter Island.
Oh, yeah, those iconic heads, right?
Yeah, the Moai. And sure, everyone's seen the pictures, but today's deep dive, we're going deeper, way past the tourist snapshots. We're going to uncover the real story behind the Moai, all the mysteries,
Uh-huh.
and our source, the Moai Wikipedia page. So get ready for some fascinating stuff.
It's funny you say uncover because, well, most folks get hung up on the size of the moai. I think the real magic is in the details, the
Yeah.
stuff that often gets missed.
Totally. We're talking about those crazy detailed nostrils shaped like fish hooks, the long earlobes, some even have hands, and the markings on their bodies. I mean, these weren't just giant heads plopped on an island. Someone put serious work into these.
Exactly. And those details, they're like a window into how the Rapa Nui people thought. Take those earlobes, for example. They weren't just going for a look. Elongated ears, they're a symbol, man. Wisdom, a connection to the spiritual world, big stuff in Polynesian culture. And those oversized heads, they weren't just for show either. Think about it. The head, the most sacred part of the body, they were showing how much they valued their ancestors, the importance of lineage in Polynesian belief.
Okay, so we're talking about a culture obsessed with family history, their roots. And remember how I said we were going deeper? Well, get this, the Moai originally had eyes.
No way, really.
Yeah.
I always wondered about those deep-set sockets.
In 1979, archaeologists found something amazing, those sockets. They weren't meant to be empty. They were designed to hold coral eyes.
Of coral. Wow.
And get this. Imagine pupils made of obsidian or scoria, volcanic glass, a red glint in the sun. Can you picture that staring back at you?
Talk about intimidating. But wait, they didn't all have eyes, right? What's the deal with that?
Excellent question. It's true, not every Moai got the eye treatment, so what does it mean?
What makes you wonder, right? Maybe it's about importance, like a hierarchy. Only the top dogs, the most respected ancestors, the powerful chiefs, maybe they were the only ones deemed worthy of sight. And here's where it gets even cooler. Think about where most of the Moai are facing. Inland, towards the villages. Like they were meant to watch over the islanders, offering protection. Or maybe keeping an eye on them, making sure everyone behaved.
Can you imagine sailing toward the island for the first time? Seeing those figures rising up, those eyes following your every move? Awe-inspiring and kind of creepy at the same time.
Right. Makes you think, what was their real purpose? Were they just about honoring the ancestors, or was there something more going on?
$1 million question.
Well, to understand their purpose, you got to understand this Polynesian concept of mana. It's like a spiritual essence, a life force flowing through all things. But it's strongest in ancestors and leaders.
So the Moai, they were like vessels of mana, connecting the living with those who came before.
Exactly. And when you think about how competitive Moai construction was, the different sizes, the drive to build bigger and bigger statues,
Oh, totally.
it starts to seem like a giant game of one-upmanship, each clan showing off their prestige, their spiritual clout.
Like, oh yeah, well, my ancestors got a 10-ton head. Top that. I can picture the arguments now. But seriously, to make something that massive on an island with limited resources, that had to be a crazy undertaking.
Right. How did they even move these things? We're talking tons and tons of rock. It's a question that's baffled people for centuries.
And that's the $1 million question, isn't it? How do you move something that massive, especially on an island? Not exactly unlimited resources.
It's mind-boggling. And what really makes you scratch your head is that Easter Island, not exactly a lumberjack's paradise.
Right.
There are barely any big trees. So using those giant rollers, things like that, no evidence they were doing that. Researchers were stumped for years.
I can't even move my couch without throwing my back out, let alone a multi-ton statue. So what were some of the theories people came up with?
Well, at first, most people assumed, okay, rollers, sleds, the usual, right?
Yeah.
But wood was scarce, like we said. And then someone throws out the walking theory.
Walking theory. Okay, now you have my attention.
Wild, right? I know. But back in '86, this explorer, Thor Heyerdahl, he decided to test it out. They got a moai, tied ropes around it, and using this rocking motion, they actually moved it, inch by inch, but still.
So wait, hold on. A bunch of people rocking this giant head back and forth. That must have been something to see.
I know, right?
Though it doesn't sound very efficient or safe. All that rocking, did they even have chiropractors back then?
You bring up a good point. It worked, yeah. They proved it was possible. But all that rocking, it did some damage to the statue's base. And then there's the question of, okay, over rough ground, long distances, how realistic is this method?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if they maybe had a better way of doing it. And guess what? This is where the research takes a turn.
It does. More recent research, these guys, Terry Hunt and Carl Livo, they actually think the walking theory holds water. just a more refined version.
Okay, so less rocking, more like actual walking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They looked at the broken statue bases, how some of them were designed, and they're like, wait a minute, this points to a more controlled form of walking. Like they used ropes and logs, yeah, but very carefully, maneuvering the statue upright, minimizing damage, and way more efficient.
It blows my mind how new research can just rewrite history, you know? It's amazing. But speaking of changing perspectives, remember how we mentioned that whole Birdman cult thing, our Wikipedia deep dive? It hints at some big shifts in Rapa Nui culture.
Yeah, the Birdman cult. It was a huge departure from the Moai era,
Right.
focus on ancestors.
So for those of us who skipped that history class, give us the rundown. Who were the Birdman cult? What did they believe?
All right, so picture this. Every year, there's this competition at Orongo, a village up on a volcano, no less. Each
Yeah.
clan, they send their champion, right? And these guys, they have to swim to this nearby island. First one to bring back the first egg laid by a sooty tern, that's our Birdman.
Okay, hold on. So we went from giant stone heads to a race for bird eggs. That's quite the cultural shift. What happened there?
Now, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, we can
Mhm.
guess. Environmental changes, maybe, society going through some things, or maybe, just maybe, their beliefs evolved. Who knows?
It's wild to think about, you've got this culture completely changing, going from these massive, awe-inspiring moai to, bam, a cult focused on bird eggs. It makes you wonder, are those two things connected somehow?
Now, wouldn't that be something? And, the Wikipedia article, it points out this really interesting fact. Around the time the Birdman cult pops up, Moai construction, it just stops.
Whoa. So it wasn't just a gradual thing. They literally stopped making these giant statues.
Seems that way.
Wow. What do you make of that? Was it the Birdman call? Maybe they needed those resources, all that energy went into their competitions and rituals? Or was it deeper than that, like a change in beliefs?
Tough to say for sure, but think about it. The Birdman cult gains power. Suddenly, those Moai, those ancestors they represent, maybe they don't hold the same weight anymore.
So they're like, out with the old gods, in with the new, or in this case, in with the birds. It's amazing how cultures can just shift like that. But this is the sad part, right? The Moai, their story doesn't have a happy ending. Eventually, they were all toppled.
It's true. By the late 1800s, pretty much every single standing Moai had been pulled down. It's tragic when you think about it. These symbols of heritage just gone.
So what happened? Was it the Rapa Nui themselves? Internal fighting, maybe? Or did they decide to just, I don't know, distance themselves from those old beliefs?
There's definitely evidence to back that up. Some researchers think that as resources got tighter on the island, and remember those Moai took a lot of resources, maybe things got a little too competitive between the clan.
Rivalries, jealousy, all that?
Exactly. It could have been a period of unrest. You topple your rival statue to show dominance, undermine them.
It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it. The very things that once brought them together, those symbols of their ancestors, maybe those are what ultimately tore them apart. And of course, we can't forget about the Europeans. They really messed things up when they got there.
Oh, absolutely. Disease,
Yeah.
wiping out huge chunks of the population, and then those slave raids in the 1800s, just devastating.
It's impossible to say for sure what role the Europeans played in the Moai's downfall, but you got to figure it had some impact. Internal struggles, external pressures, it all just piled up. It makes you wonder, what stories could those Moai tell if they could talk?
It really makes you think. Even with all our fancy technology, we're still kind of clueless when it comes to the Moai. How did they really move them? What made them topple them? And the biggest question of all, what can their story teach us about our relationship with the past, with power, with our planet? It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. These massive figures, shrouded in mystery. They capture the imagination, that's for sure. And who knows, maybe someday we'll have those answers. Until then, the mystery lives on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.